Hello everyone. And let me just double check that we are live. And we are live. Okay, cool. Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good, Alex. How are you?
I'm good. Just Madhu, right?
Yes, Madhu. Yes.
Perfect. Cool. So let's just wait a little bit for more people to join. But what time is it for you, Madhu?
It's 7:30 p.m. in India.
Okay, nice. So almost done with your day, hopefully.
Yes, kind of,
No?
but till we have US team, so
Well, I like your background. You have a piano and everything.
no. I just use my virtual background. I hope one day.
Okay. All right. So we're getting some people. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Madhu? Like, how did you
Yes.
start doing MuleSoft? How did it all start?
Okay. If you ask me how I started MuleSoft, I think it's like long 8 to 8.5 years back. I started with 3.7 Mule version, and I total have around 10 plus closely and everything completely into my integration space. And then when I was working in Accenture, I got an opportunity to start working with MuleSoft. And that's where my journey with MuleSoft started. And in this process, I was able to work with different integration tools. But I've been mostly with MuleSoft. And today I've been working here at Salesforce, part of the MuleSoft engineering team. And things are going pretty good. And out of this, I was curious to learn myself with MuleSoft MCP. And when Anthropic started exploring this one, right, that made me more curious, and I started exploring this. And I wanted to take opportunity to share all the learnings with the team and everyone. It's and
Cool.
I see your session is good place to share and learn from everyone.
For sure. I'm super excited about MCP. I think this is the first demo that I'm going to see in real life because I saw some articles, but I haven't tried it myself. So checking out this live is really exciting.
Sure, I think today we'll try to put it as hands-on as possible, and I have came up with all the required things for anyone can start doing this in their local, and more and more different use cases we might see in the future.
Perfect. All right. I think we can get started then.
Sure, I think I'll try to quickly share my screen. Okay, do confirm once you're able to see my screen.
Yep, I see it.
Okay. So first of all, welcome everyone. Today we'll try to talk through MCP, and we'll try to understand why exactly it matters and how it can open up for new product and platform opportunities for us. The way that we can solve different customer solutions. And before going forward, I think thank you all for being here, and we hope you get something out of this session. And please feel to ask questions, and if you have any inputs or suggestions, please share, and we are open to hear that. And today we will try to cover on high level what exactly the MCP server is and why does it matters. And we'll try to understand what is the key difference between API versus MCP and what are the different benefits and real world scenarios that we have. And when we say MCP, what are the key principles, architecture, and communication patterns that we have? And we'll have a quick walkthrough of a use case. And for this demo, we have created one travel agent, and we'll try to use this to make real-time transaction and see how it behaves. And we'll use for Q&A and that. So the first, we'll try to start understanding what exactly this MuleSoft MCP is. And before we go to MuleSoft MCP, I want to give some background. And MCP was a standard provided by Anthropic. And why exactly do you think we need MCPs? Is how exactly our agents can understand, make the communication, and they are trying to make it standardized across. Now, let's see how it can solve the problems associated with your scalable integrations, right? So MCP, it's an open protocol which will standardize how applications provide context to your LLMs. Now, when you say MCP, right, we can think it as an USB, where you can connect to your different applications or different AI or API applications that you have, and make sure they all communicate in a common standard way. Now we can consider this between REST and MCP. Both are stateless protocols, and both will enable standardized and decoupled communication. And we'll try to understand more differences in the coming slides. Now, as we try to understand what exactly the MCP server is, now we'll try to take it one step forward and understand this architecture in simple and powerful way. So now when we say MCP, right, so we have something called client and we have something called server. What exactly the client here is, you can consider real-time use cases like your cursor or cloud or any of your IDs that you can interact, or your LLM communication part. So in our case, your MCP client will act as a one-to-one connection with your servers, which will be inside your host application and which is responsible for all the API calls that we are making. Now, when we say server, here where exactly you implement all your business process, and there we expose something called resources and tools and prompts for your communication within server. So now if I take this here, right, so is my cursor visible? Okay, so here we get to see here, right, so your host will make communication to your servers through one MCP client of your host. We can connect to multiple servers. Now similarly, let's try to understand how exactly this works with a different example. Let's consider you have a host MCP client, and now you have multiple servers that you want to connect, and your OpenLLM models also. So that's where your server acts as a bridge between your client and acts as a bridge to your backend database. So this is how exactly end-to-end architecture looks like. Now we'll go to the next step and try to understand what exactly what different types of communication options that we have, and what exactly the resource tools and prompts that we say. Now, when we say you create MCP servers, right? Any agent to understand, right? There are a couple of things which are important. Out of those, first one is resources. So these resources are your core primitives in which the MCP will allow servers to expose data and content that can be read by your clients and can be used by your context LLM interactions. So that's where your agent can understand what is the different types of resources that you have. And then the next option is tools. So tools, you can consider it as your endpoints, where your endpoint information will be provided. And in this scenario, which will enable your servers to expose your executable functionalities. As we mentioned, you can consider your REST as your HTTP endpoints. So through these tools, LLM can interact with your external systems, perform computations, and take your actions in your real-time world. So the way that we are discussing a previous example, right? How you can connect your server to your backend systems. That's where your tools will help you. So the next thing here, important thing is the prompts. So this is the main important things here. Now, prompts which will enable servers to define reusable prompt templates and workflows that clients can easily access your use, that can be provide more information to your LLMs. So this is how exactly the MCP things works. But let's try to understand when we say this works similarly to your REST, right? But this MCP transport protocols works different. There are two different protocols. One is STDIO, which is completely for your things that you want to run. For suppose you have created a server and you want to run it locally. So that's where your STDIO works and supports for. But let's consider you wanted to deploy this to your remote servers, or you wanted to access through outside your servers. Then that's where your SSC and streamable HTTP comes into picture. By default, currently MuleSoft supports SSC. So now, next step, let's try to understand how exactly this SSC works and what is the main thing comes into picture. So this you can consider similarly to your streaming HTTP call. But what happens is, let's consider our client. Let's consider we take its cloud desktop, which will start initiating one SSC connection to your server, and that endpoint will get the connection back. Till you make multiple transactions, this will be live. And when you close this transaction, then your connection to your server will be closed. Till then, all your calls, you can make multiple calls with one connection. So that's how actually SSC server events works. And I hope we were able to understand because the next steps we have more info on how exactly we are exposing MuleSoft applications. Now, before further go and understand MCP implementation, let's try to understand difference between MCP and API. Now, wanted to take this based on different features and different concepts that we can differentiate between API and MCP. The first thing wanted to focus here is on the primary user. So for primary users, for our APIs would be developers and other applications. But for our MCP, our primary users will be your agents or your LLM models. And now when we are trying to understand the purpose, so this will help us to enable different integrations. But MCP purpose is to make sure your AI to understand the context and take actions in behalf of you. That's where MCP helps us. Let's consider difference between interaction. So I think we create your predefined request and response. But for MCPs, I think that's where we have discussed resources and tools, right? We define AI-driven resources and tools to make sure we have the right interaction. And when we say about semantics, right, this requires developers to understand end-to-end. But for the same for AI, also it should able to understand, interpret what exactly your different tools. It will be the same. The same like how exactly developer understand and makes the right calls. The same way the agent will be also doing the same. The last option that we have here is we end up having only manual documentations or your API documentation, anything to understand what are the different endpoints and all things that you have. But for AI, it would be of metadata of your tools. I think that's where it can able to understand your existing implementations and it can take forward. Now we try to understand what exactly MCP, what is the difference between API and everything, right? Now let's come back into your MuleSoft ecosystem. Now let's consider this is our existing customer implementation. Now let's say we get to see that digital workforce needs to be serviced with a scalable and manageable action layers, right? So the more and more LLM layers or agent layers comes into picture, we need to make sure how exactly our AIs can interact with your existing implementation. Till now, we don't have a communication between your APIs versus your agents. And that's where our MuleSoft MCP could fit in and help customers to do that. So this is how actually let's consider your digital force layer acts, and then your action layers comes into picture where your MCP sits in and make communications to your existing APIs, and that will help as a bridge between your agents versus your existing APIs. And we can think about why exactly we need to do and give access to our APIs. So consider scenario where we need to support a real-time data. Let's consider someone have placed an order, but they need to get the fetch. Now let's consider agent force needs to connect and fetch the real-time data, right? So that's where these kind of MCP servers to connect your MuleSoft applications will be helpful, and we can retrieve real-time data. And we understood through example, but let's try to understand why exactly this AI connectivity are difficult to scale even with MCP. There is one biggest challenge that we have. Why? Because when we say we wanted to connect multiple LLMs or agents, right, which will involve a deeper um, manual work to build this connectivity to different resources. Now today we were saying I have an agent, OpenAI agent and Claude agent, or we can say multiple agents, right? Here we get to clearly see it's all one-on-one interactions. So we don't have any standardized way how exactly this works. Now, when we say if more and more increases, right? Think about how if we can multiply with number of clients or LMs that we have, the effort is huge and it's not scalable and it's not even maintainable, right? So for this, there is a concept that MuleSoft released, which says MuleSoft MCP Connector, which will add as your bridge. I think as per the diagram that we have seen, right, where we are trying to solve this problem. So this is where we thought, okay, MCP sits, but now we will try to understand how where exactly your MCP comes into picture and how is helping this communication layer to fit in. Now, as we understood, now MuleSoft is working on enhancing this MuleSoft MCP support on your AnyPoint platform. This will allow organization to easily adapt through MCP through our pre-built connector, where you can use your existing or you can create new labs, which will be more compatible with your MCP supported agents. Now, when you say you can create, there are a couple of items that we should get into picture. One is, if you say you want to bring your MCP to every API, now you can use your MuleSoft MCP connector, and you can put it as your listener, which will listen for your calls, and developer can quickly create and transform their APIs into MCP servers where agent can quickly start doing that. And we would request everyone to start trying, and it's better to fail quickly and enhance this. So that's how actually we can learn and understand how exactly we can enhance our business for customer. The next thing is, now everything is AI interactions in future, right? Now by this we can say we can support MuleSoft. We can use MuleSoft to leverage organizations to build AI agents and models that are able to seamlessly access and utilize the data from any of your connected systems. Now we can say through this we can have secure communication to make sure MCP connectors are enhanced in such a way that we have the right authentications and enhancements still going on. So now this is how actually looks like. As we discussed earlier, only difference between what we discussed in MCP primitives versus what we have here is, there we have resources, tools, and prompts, but here we have something called description in place of prompts. So consider description as your prompts, where you provide the right description to understand what exactly a tool does, so that your agent can understand. And we'll try to put it in real-time example in next use case, and we can enhance it from there. So from your previous example, when we say we were not able to have your AI connectivity in more simplified way, right? That's how actually if you can build your agents, MCP servers, that's where they sit in between, and they can act as a bridge between multiple agents and to fetch your data, live data from the backend. But one thing that we need to still work, needs to be there for manual work. However, we can compose it to make it maximum reusability, the way that how we define our experience API and reuse, right? The same way you can redefine this and have more scalability across. And here, let's try to go and understand more from our demo. For this, I just started creating one sample project. And from here, as we are trying to do MCP server implementation, right? From your home screen, you have an option called create MCP server. When you just click on this one, it will start creating a basic structure. And for this, I would suggest you to go and check your POM, and POM looks good to me. Okay, so this is the dependency I was looking. So the current dependency that we have here is 0.1.0 beta version. So make sure you have this dependency in, and let's go back. And as we are discussing about tools, right? So when you say you wanted to create a tool, so this will ask for name, description, schemas, and response. Earlier we were discussing about 3 different parameters, right? One is tools, resources, and description. So this is your tool, and this is where you put your description, and this is where you add your parameters. So for suppose I wanted to create, as we are discussing about travel, right? I wanted to create for flights. For suppose I wanted to say name would be search flights. Now description, I'll say I wanted to search for flights, which will be with company policy. So this is my description. So now agent, if agent wants to understand this one, right? So it will go back and say, hey, I have this tool with this description. Now what we do is it will go back and understand that. It's right here. Okay. So now after this one, the one important thing that we should make sure to do here is we need to create something called schemas. So what exactly schema is? Now I am saying I wanted to create a search flight tool. But for me to book a flight or search for any flight information, we need from where to where you're going, and which date you're going, and which date you're trying to travel, and from which source to destination, everything, right? For this, I have a schema which I have written. I'll try to quickly put this on here, and we'll go through this one. So what we are saying is, I'm defining the type. Okay, we are getting the errors. Okay, first we'll fix this one. So for this, similarly, how we create HTTP listener configuration, the same way for MCP server, we need to create a connector configuration. And before creating a connector configuration, we would need a HTTP configuration. First, I'll go ahead and quickly create this HTTP configuration. I'll just say 0. And default port I'll use, and timeout and path, everything I'll keep the same. Now let's complete this MCP server connector configuration. As we discussed, MCP supports 3 different types. One is STDIO, streaming, and SSC. And here we get to see MuleSoft supports only SSC for now. We'll select SSC, and we have our listener configuration that we have selected. And by default, the path would be /SSC. You can update this based on your requirements. And this is your message part for communication. But suppose we need to provide a server name. I'll just say my travel agent is my server, and I'll just put it server version as 1.0.0. I'll just click on add. Now we should not get this errors, but it's still coming. But we'll wait and see. Okay, I have this configuration. I have created these parameters from to when I'm trying to travel and what type of class, either it is economy or business, and either it's a direct flight or non indirect flight. I have created sample basic schema for here. Now what I do is I'll just save this one, and I'll just
Aren't you missing the response?
Yes, I need to complete the response also. So I think for that response, I need to add. I think that's where I thought to put transfer message first. What I want to do here is, first I wanted to add a transfer message. So now I'm trying to add a transfer message. I should have a sample JSON. Let me put this JSON out here. So what I do is I have created a dummy response, how exactly different search flight response would be. Now this is my output for this tool. Now what I do is we need to provide what kind of response that you wanted to give back. Now what I'll say is there are different types of responses options that you can select. One is text to tool response, and that's where your default response will be validated. And there are additional ways. So let's consider if you're dealing with image tool response, you'll select, and if you have blob data that you're dealing with, you will select this one. But for our use case, let's consider this is a text tool. I'll just say here are the list of flights. So this is similar to your transfer message, how you write, and then I'll just say a payload from your response.
Sorry,
in your
what's the difference between the first two in the dropdown?
Right, response content in the sense by default it will take ask us to provide the more URL. Let's consider if I'm trying to hit to another agent, and if I'm trying to fetch more info, it will ask you to provide the response content from where you are trying to fetch on other info. So if you say I don't want to worry about from where I'm fetching all this info and I want to respond directly, then that's where we select tool response content, and this will respond you the similar structure that we have. Okay, I'll say here are the flight results. Then I'll just say payload. So now I think we should not see the error right now. So yeah, so this is how actually it looks like the structure for us. Now before we run this one, right, I want to show you what are the different parameters and different configurations that we have here. So in place of your history listener, we have this MCP tool listener. And I think that's where your tools concept of your MCP comes into picture. And in place of your prompt, you have your description. And in resources, you have this resource name, which says your tool listener name is your resource, which is search flights. Now we have end-to-end. Before we run this one, right, what I did is I have one app which I created for our demo purpose today. What I do is I'll just quickly get into here, and I'll quickly walk through on high level what exactly it does. So what is my main goal here is I wanted to replicate a business case where I wanted to create a personal travel assistance for me. For that, I wanted to make sure if someone wants to go ahead and plan their travel, we need to help them to retrieve the leave request. We need to fetch the leave balance first. Based on your leave balance, we should raise a leave request. Once we raise a leave request, we should help them to find flight bookings. And once a flight booking is done, help for the hotel bookings. And once everything is done, I wanted to update my out of office. So I have created this MCP server, which will act as my personal assistant and which will help us to do all this process. And I have built this app. So before we go ahead and run this summon app, right, there are a couple of things which we need to keep in mind. Okay, the first thing that we need to focus here is, so for us to make the communication, the first thing that is important here is we need to install a super gateway. So we need to make sure you have a super gateway installed. Now, once I have super gateway, right, based on my configuration, I was saying I'm trying to connect or expose my local service that we have initiated to outside world. Anyone can start using this. And after that one, right, we would suggest, at least I would suggest someone who wanted to understand the end-to-end implementation, right? You can use MCP inspector. So I'll share you all the steps that we would need to do. Now what I do is I'll go back here. I'll just put this here. I'll just click on connect. So from here, you get to see my MCP server was available for any agent to use. And from here, we say I have different tools, right? I'll try to click on tools. I'll say I'll list all the tools. As we discussed earlier, we have different tools, right? For getting your leave balance, to book your hotel, search your flights and everything. We get to see all the tools were reflected here. And you can test it from here for mock reference. But what we are trying to do is, as per our use case, we are trying to utilize a cloud, a desktop. And for that, I have set up ready. Now what I was saying is I wanted to travel to Dreamforce. Okay, so now the specific use case, consider that I got an opportunity to travel to Dreamforce. I wanted to see how exactly we can utilize that one. But before that, I'll have a common prompt. Okay, I'll put this one. So now I was saying I'm Madhu. I'm trying to plan to travel to SFO, to Dreamforce, attend a Dreamforce from Hyderabad on so and so date. But before that, I wanted to help me to fetch the leave balance, right? So what it does is it goes and try to connect to my existing tool. Let's see and understand which tool it. So see here, the first thing it does is it went to my check leave balance tool and it's tried to fetch the data, and it says I have 12 vacation days and 5-6 leaves. Okay, this looks good. And our response here is just a basic response, but it able to understand and extend this based on your LLM, and it says I have total 12 vacation days and 5 leaves, 5 sick leave, and I can go ahead and plan my personal leave as well. But here one good thing that you need to understand here is it says Dreamforce will typically happen for 3 to 4 days, and it asking me how exactly you want to travel or plan your travel. So because the first statement I was saying this, I wanted to visit my family, right? That's where it says additional days you would like to spend with your family. And to include, make sure you make sure you validate your travel time plus your jet lag recovery, because I clearly stated that I was traveling from Hyderabad, India. Now, as a next step, before we further go into booking, I'll just say I wanted to go ahead and create my leave request for so and so dates for 5 days. So now let's see how it goes. Now it will go ahead and start trying to create the dates here. If you see, it's trying to create the dates, and I got the response, and it says my leave request was approved. Leave request was raised, and we get to see I have 6 more vacation leaves left. Perfect. Now what I do is I'll just ask it to get me different flights based on my days. For suppose I'm trying from Hyderabad to San Francisco directly, right, from October 5th, then SFO to New York on October 10th, and New York to Hyderabad on October 15th. Let's see how it goes and what it will understand and what it will provide the response. The first thing that it's trying to do is it's trying to call search flights tool and able to get all this information. Okay, perfect. Now here, if you see, agent was able to understand and provide me different options. Let's consider if I'm traveling from Hyderabad to San Francisco for a business travel, it says you have different options: flight 1, flight 2, flight 3. And similarly, from San Francisco, New York, it clearly stated that it's my personal travel, and it was able to understand this as a personal travel, and return back to Hyderabad is a business travel. Now it's asking me to select different options. From Hyderabad, I wanted to select first option, and for San Francisco to New York, a different option, and from New York to Hyderabad. Now, if we select this one, right, it will go ahead and book the flights for us. Let's see how it goes. Now, I was saying for Hyderabad, select the option 1. For San Francisco, New York, select option 3. For New York to Hyderabad, select the option 3 same. So now what happens is if agent wants to more interaction, right, it will ask us whether to provide approval to connect to this one. So now I'll just click on allow. Excellent. Now it says all your flights have been booked, and it is helping me to provide complete itinerary. Okay, so this is my itinerary of my plan for Hyderabad to San Francisco and San Francisco to New York to Hyderabad. So later point, right, if you see, I did ask for hotel bookings, but your agent can understand different tools that we have and different patterns that you're working on. It says, can you help? It says it can help for a hotel booking. Now I'll say, okay, can you help me to show available hotels for my journey for only SFO, because SFO to New York, it's my family time. I'm not looking for hotels. So now let's see if it goes and find hotels for only SFO. Okay, perfect. It says San Francisco. Okay, and the similar way how it have interpreted the flight information, it have did the same for hotel booking. I'll just say I want to go with hotel booking option 1. Okay, I'll just click on always hello. Okay, now my hotel booking is also completed. Now everything looks good to me, right? So, but I had not updated my out of office. So now agent was able to understand and says that you need any help in setting up your out of office based on the calendar days. I'll just say yes. Yes, update the calendar. Now it will go back and consider this got replicated with my Gmail. It will go and update my Gmail or any of your out of office different email configurations. And here it says it got updated. It says from October 9th to October 5th to 9th, it got updated as saying that I'm attending Dreamforce. And after 10 to 15, it says limited availability during my family visit. So it clearly helped me to book end-to-end travel journey from my leave till to my out of office. This is how actually we can build our own set of agent for us. So I'll quickly go back, and I think I'm open for any Q&A. I think this is what we want to walk through you and help us to walk through how exactly you can create your MCP servers. And this is one of that example where you can create your travel assistant. And Alex, if you have any questions or anything.
I'm lost. There I am.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I mean, we still have a few minutes. We have 15 minutes left.
Yes.
Do you want to try something else? I don't see any questions as of now in the audience.
Sure. I think one more thing which I recently did is one of the similar use case, and I wanted to send updates to my Slack. But whenever something runs right, so what I was trying to do is I wanted to make sure for suppose today I have this run happened, my batch have run, and I wanted to send the status of the batch. Okay, to my Slack, we have created a Slack similar MCP server where it will go and update this data into Slack. Let me see if I can quickly get that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hmm. Okay, I got that. I'll put it on this.
I just downloaded Claude. I hadn't tried
Okay.
Claude before. It looks really cool.
Yes, I think, yeah. Once you start using it, I think you'll love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just put it half of the screen if possible. So, just a dummy data. So, can you confirm if you're able to view my screen?
Yes, I see
Okay.
your. Is that
So
cursor?
yes. This is my cursor in my local. So let's
Yeah.
consider I have this sample report that we have after we run all our tests. I wanted to make sure convert this HTML format into human understandable format, and I have connected my MCP server in MCP MuleSoft MCP server into my cursor servers, MCP servers. That's where it will be able to understand different tools that I have exposed, and it should try to understand that a Slack channel. So here, if you see, it's trying to call MCP tool which says post Slack messages, and here it got converted this HTML into human understandable format, and it started posting in my Slacks. So this is how actually in Slack it looks like, and this is one of the example as well. So we would, I think, as mentioned, so there are so many examples that we have, and we want people to try and different combinations. And as I mentioned, so if someone is trying to run in the local, right, the first thing they need to make sure they should have the node installed in your local, because without node, this super gateway and other combinations will not work. And once we have, I'll quickly draft and share this in the chat. The first thing we need is node should be there, and second one is super gateway. Super gateway installed in your local. And if someone wants to explore this inspector, this MCP inspector, I'm trying to put with all the links if possible.
I think it would be cool in the future if ACV can package that, like, you know, how it packages like the Mule runtime and the Java version. It would be cool
Right.
that it packages the rest.
Yes, I think we might see that going to happen soon, but for Cloud Desktop to access your server, we need to run this command. So this is one super gateway installations. I'm trying to get that. So once you have everything, so I have so okay, perfect. So yeah, so if someone wants to run their server in the local, so I just pinged in the chat. So these are the important things. First thing is you need to make sure you have Node installed in your local, and then you use this command to install Super Gateway. Once you have Super Gateway, try to install MCP Inspector using this npx model context protocol command. And once you have everything right, now you need to download your Cloud Desktop. And once you have Cloud Desktop, right, you need to run this command called echo alert dev tools true, because without that, your MCP server can't access any information. So what are the information your Cloud Desktop needs? We need to say DevTools to be true. Then you need to run on this super gateway, where super gateway command, where you're saying my local HTTP local host, this is my host and port, where SSC is my path and message path is so and so. That's where your Cloud Desktop, any of the IDs can able to access your um, information what you have in MCP server. So I think I wanted to show something which I missed one. So now I keep on telling that I connected to my server, right? Server to MCP server. This is how actually it looks like. So when you click on this link, right? So it shows you all the different servers which got connected. For ourselves, it's EmPower agent, and it will provide you all the tools that it got exposed. I think that's where you get confirmation whether it was successfully connected or not. And if you want to connect to that, you just need to click on settings, and this settings, it will take you to the developer console, and just click on this one, add the configuration. I'll share you a sample configuration how it looks like, so that you can add that in your local. So Alex, I pinged this command as well, where they need to update this in the configuration file. So this is how exactly it looks like when you set up this in the configuration of your cloud in the developer tools. So once you set up this one and you did the first steps, all the steps that you have above, you have your cloud desktop able to connect your agent, and all the communications would happen. And as we started initially, I hope everyone have learned something out of this session, and we would look forward for any of the feedbacks or any suggestions. I think we would be happy to take.
So this is just in local. Can we deploy to Cloud Hub?
Yes, you can deploy to Cloud Hub, but when you say you want to deploy this to Cloud Hub, you have an option to deploy this only to Cloud Hub 2 and not with the Cloud Hub 1. And again, you need to follow the same steps to have this connectivity. And as we mentioned, it's still in the beta phase, right? So more and more enhancements are going on. In future, we might see more work for MuleSoft to enhance this one.
Cool.
I think I'm good from my end then. So thanks for the opportunity.
Where can we find the documentation for this?
Yeah, okay, documentation. I think we have good documentation on documentation. MuleSoft have this beta documentation. I think they have given us good examples as well. So this is a good place to start. And here they've given us good steps on how exactly you need to start creating an MCP server. And when you say you start writing the MCP tools, how you need to do, and all this information. And before further going on, right, I would suggest to go ahead and understand this connector reference before you start doing this one, because there are different tools that we have. And once you understand this one, go to this connector examples. I think this would be a good start for you to start putting your hands dirty.
Perfect. Awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm excited to try it now. Happy.
You want to try right away?
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Okay. I think you can share your screen. I can stop.
Oh, not right now. Like, I'm gonna try it later.
Okay. Sure. I think I'll be just ping away. So if something is there, do let me know.
Cool.
Happy to connect.
Cool. I'm excited. What other alternatives are to Claude besides like Cursor and OpenAI? Are there any other?
Yes. I think you can use your. Okay, you don't want to use Cursor, right? You can use your MuleSoft. And all the IDs support that. So any of your IDs supports. So I think currently all your IDs will support to connect. But only difference that we say, right? I think when you say you wanted to use Hello Developer Tools, for your Cloud desktop you need to do, but for your Cursor you don't need to do that step. By default, it will be able to access. So I think we need to explore. I have tried only these two for now. I think based on my learnings, these are the different ways that we can connect. And there are more. I think I have not tried yet.
Oh yeah, I want to try in Cursor because you can now like use it to deploy to Cloud Hub, for example. So I want to try that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think MuleSoft have released this MuleSoft MCP server, right, where you can quickly connect and do all the steps. I think someone wants to try. I think that's a good place to get your MuleSoft MCP server and to your local and connect to your Cursor and provide you all your client credentials. I think this will help you. I think once you create your MCP server, you can use that option to deploy this to Cloud too, and from there you can try that.
Yeah, I'll be trying that for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I guess that would be all for today.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Madhu. This was super insightful. I know people are going to see this because, again, I haven't seen any other demo on MCP yet. So this is really cool.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. So for everyone watching, remember to follow us on twitch.tv/MuleSoft_community. There you can also see the recordings, or we're also going to be uploading the recordings to YouTube, so keep posted. And you can also follow us on LinkedIn as MuleSoft Community. Cool. All right. I will see you all next week. Bye, Madhu.
Bye. Bye, Alex. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.